Man in the Rearview Mirror. Suburban Arizona. 19. The commute home. It started like any other evening for Emily Rhodes, a 29-year-old nurse finishing her shift at Mesa General Hospital in Arizona. The desert air was dry, carrying the faint scent of asphalt and gasoline as she got into her silver Honda Civic. She lived 30 minutes away, in a quiet suburb near Apache Junction, a safe area, or so she thought. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky burnt orange. Emily turned on the radio, humming to a country tune, when she noticed something odd in her rearview mirror. A dark-colored sedan sat 2 cars behind her, no headlights on, even as night fell. She didn't think much of it. Maybe someone forgot. Still, something in her gut tightened. She took a random right turn into a gas station, a detour she never made. The sedan followed. She parked by the air pump, pretending to check her tire. The sedan idled a few pumps away. The driver never got out. She couldn't see his face through the tinted glass. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Flat tire, huh?" Emily froze. She looked around. No one nearby, just the hum of neon lights and the buzz of cicadas. She jumped back into her car and sped home, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. But that same sedan followed her all the way, staying just far enough to not be caught. And when she pulled into her driveway, it passed slowly by, stopping only long enough for her to see a camera flash from inside. Click, then it vanished into the night. The camera flash. The next morning, Emily woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing again. Another text from the same number. "You looked scared last night." She blocked it, heart pounding. Maybe it was a prank, maybe a co-worker, but when she checked her car before leaving for work, her stomach dropped. On the windshield, under the wiper, was a printed photo of her from last night, standing at the air pump, looking over her shoulder, eyes wide. Someone had taken it from across the parking lot. She rushed to work, trying to shake it off. But the whole day her co-workers said she looked pale. One of them, Nina, joked, "Girl, you need a weekend off and you're jumpy as hell." On her lunch break, she went outside to get some air and noticed the same dark sedan parked across the street, angled directly toward the hospital's side entrance. No movement, no driver visible. She ran back inside and told security. The guard, Eddie, walked out to check, but when he got there, the car was gone. That night, driving home again, Emily stayed hyper-alert. Every car behind her felt suspicious. Every passing headlight made her flinch. When she finally pulled into her driveway, she saw something new, footprints clear as day, in the gravel leading right up to her bedroom window. And right below the glass, another photo. This one was of her sleeping. The calls in the night, Emily barely slept. She kept the lights on, every curtain shut tight. Around 2 a.m. her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. At first, silence, then faint breathing. She hung up, heart hammering. Moments later, another call, same number. "Why'd you close the blinds?" Barely her breath caught. She whispered, "Who is this?" The other voice chuckled softly. "Don't you recognize me, Emily? We see each other every night." She dropped the phone, stumbling back. She called 911, her voice trembling, explaining the photos, the car, the calls. By the time the police arrived, there was no one outside. They told her to change her number, file a report, and stay vigilant with what they left. But an hour later, her phone rang again, a FaceTime call from an unknown contact. Against her better judgment, she answered for half a second. Sight and the screen showed the view from outside her house, through her living room window, as if the caller was standing right there. She screamed and turned off every light. Through the blinds she could see movement, a figure slowly stepping back into the dark street. The next morning she called off work and packed a bag. She was going to stay with her sister across town. As she reversed out of her driveway, she glanced into her rearview mirror and saw the same dark sedan pull out from the corner. He was following her again. The motel room. Emily didn't go to her sister's. She was afraid he'd follow and put her family at risk. Instead, She drove an hour out of town, checking into a roadside motel off Route 87. She paid cash, parked under a light, and double-locked the door. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound. Finally, she let herself breathe. She texted Nina her location. "Don't tell anyone where I am, please." Around 11 p.m., she heard footsteps outside her door. Slow, deliberate, the kind of walk where someone wants you to hear them. They stopped right outside her room. The doorknob jiggled, softly, twice. Then silence. Emily grabbed her phone and dialed the front desk. The clerk said he'd send someone to check. 2 minutes later, someone knocked. Maintenance. Emily hesitated. "I didn't call maintenance." Silence. Then, louder, "Maintenance, ma'am." She looked through the peephole. No one there. The knock came again, from the window this time. When she screamed, whoever it was ran, heavy boots pounding across the gravel. She saw the dark sedan's taillights flare as it sped away. The clerk came minutes later, apologizing. He hadn't sent anyone. That night, Emily didn't sleep, and just before dawn, she checked her phone. A new text had arrived at 3:14 a.m. FIA. "I like the room you picked, cozy." The license plate. The next morning, Emily filed another police report, this time in the nearby county. An officer named Detective Kearns listened carefully, noting every detail. When she mentioned the dark sedan, he perked up. "Black Chevy Malibu. Partial plate J6X? Emily nodded. He sighed. "We've had complaints about a vehicle matching that description. Someone stalking women leaving hospitals, grocery stores, malls. No arrests yet." He offered to escort her back to Mesa to grab some clothes and check her house. When they arrived, Emily's driveway looked normal, but her mailbox was stuffed with envelopes, each containing a single printed photo. Her walking to her car, her buying coffee, her locking her front door. Every picture was taken from behind. One envelope had a message written across it. "You never wave back." The detective's face went pale. This guy's escalating. They sent a patrol to check the neighborhood that night. But as Emily unpacked her things back at the motel, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. A small, black tracking device taped under her car's rear bumper. It had a blinking red light. And when she turned around, the motel window curtains fluttered slightly, as if someone had just been standing there. The chase. By the time she grabbed her phone, Emily's hands were shaking so hard she could barely type. She called Detective Kearns, who told her to stay put. Officers were on their way. But through the crack in the curtain, she could see headlights slowly turning into the parking lot. The black sedan. She ran to the back door, slipped out barefoot and sprinted behind the motel toward the empty desert stretch. The ground was rocky, her breathing ragged. Behind her, a car door slammed. A man's voice called out, "Emily, come back. We need to talk." She didn't recognize the voice. Calm, measured, too friendly. She darted through the brush, hiding behind a rusted dumpster. She could hear footsteps now. The sound of metal scraping, maybe a knife, maybe keys. Her phone buzzed again. A text. "You can't hide out here forever." She turned off the phone and crouched low, trying not to breathe. Then, from the distance, the faint wail of sirens. The man froze. A car engine roared, tires screeching. By the time the police arrived, all they found were footprints, tire marks, and the tracker on her car. But the detective said something that made her shiver. There were 2 sets of footprints. One was hers. The other was barefoot. The arrest days later, the police called. They'd caught the suspect. Mark Latham, 41, a former hospital janitor fired 2 years ago for inappropriate behavior around nurses. He'd been living out of his car, the same black Chevy Malibu. Inside his vehicle, they found thousands of photos of women, hundreds of Emily Butt. In a cooler wrapped in plastic, They found locks of hair and stolen belongings, lip gloss, ID badges, shoes. Detective Kearns told her she'd be safe now. "He's done, Emily. He won't hurt you again." Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The way the blinds moved when the air was still. The faint tapping on the window some nights. Her neighbor even mentioned seeing a tall guy parked near her house days after the arrest. When Emily asked to see a photo of the man they caught, she hesitated. It wasn't the face she remembered. The eyes, the jawline, wrong. The detective frowned. He confessed. "You sure?" But deep down, Emily knew. Whoever had followed her all those nights, whoever had whispered through her phone, was still out there. The Jogger in the Woods, North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains, 2021. The trail routine for Lydia Barnes, 26. Morning jogs were her sanctuary. She worked remotely for a small marketing firm in Asheville, North Carolina, and running through the forest trail behind her neighborhood helped her clear her head. The Blue Ridge air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. The path twisted through the woods for miles, and even though she rarely saw anyone that early, 6 a.m. sharp, she liked it that way, until one Thursday morning in October. The woods were unusually quiet. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of her shoes against the dirt. About 15 minutes in, she noticed footprints on the trail, bigger than hers, fresh. At first she thought maybe a hiker had been through, but the prints didn't lead anywhere. They stopped abruptly behind a large oak tree, then turned around, almost like whoever made them had been following her, then stopped. When she jogged back toward home, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced down, a text from an unknown number. "Same time tomorrow?" She froze mid-step, heart pounding. That evening she changed her running route just in case. But when she opened her front door the next morning, there was something waiting on the porch. A single muddy footprint. Size 11. Men's. The unseen watcher. Lydia brushed it off at first. Coincidence, she told herself. But deep down she felt it. That cold, creeping awareness that she wasn't alone out there. 2 days later, she drove to a new park trail 15 minutes away in Bent Creek Experimental Forest. Remote, scenic, quiet. Halfway through her jog, she noticed something subtle but wrong. Every time she slowed, she heard another pair of footsteps stop too, a half-beat later. She turned around quickly, no one. Just trees and fog rolling through the pines. She jogged faster, earbuds blasting, trying to shake it off. But then, in the reflection of her phone screen, she saw a figure move too, behind her, maybe 20 yards back. Ducking behind a tree, she froze, yanked out her earbuds, and scanned the woods. Silence. A deer darted across the trail, startling her. She laughed nervously, convincing herself that's what she saw, but that night her apartment felt off. The blinds were slightly open. She always closed them before bed. At 2:13 a.m., a sound woke her. Tap, 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 the soft, deliberate tapping on her bedroom window. She lay frozen, staring at the curtains. Then came a whisper, faint, almost playful. "You ran so well today." Her scream cut through the night. By the time police arrived, the window bore one clear mark, a single muddy handprint. The car in the distance. The next day Lydia couldn't focus. Work calls blurred into static. Her coffee went cold. She tried to laugh it off to her friend Heather, who lived nearby. Heather offered to join her next run, but Lydia insisted she'd be fine still. She started driving to her trails instead of jogging from home. One morning, as she parked her Honda by the forest entrance, she noticed a black pickup idling a few cars away. Its windows were tinted, engine running, but no driver in sight. When she returned from her run an hour later, her stomach dropped. There, under her windshield wiper, was a folded note. "You looked beautiful in red today." She wasn't wearing red, her shirt was grey. That night she showed the note to Heather. They filed a report with the local sheriff, who promised to patrol the area. But Lydia could tell they didn't believe her. "Probably some creep messing with joggers," they said. 3 nights later, she looked out her window and saw headlights flash from the woods across the street. The same black pickup, and in the faint beam, She saw something nailed to a tree as a Polaroid photo. It was her, mid-run, from behind. The voice in the woods by now. Lydia was terrified to leave the house, but she had to. She couldn't live in fear forever, she told herself. So one afternoon, she went back to Bent Creek, this time carrying pepper spray and her phone recording video the entire time. The woods felt heavier, quieter. Even the trees seemed to lean closer together. Half a mile in, her phone picked up a faint sound like breathing. She stopped the recording and listened. Nothing. Then, from behind a fallen log, a low voice whispered, "Keep running, Lydia." Her heart seized. She spun around. No one. The voice came again, closer this time. "You stop." I stopped. She bolted. Her feet pounded the dirt path, lungs burning. Branches scraped her arms. She didn't look back until she saw the trail's end up ahead. Sunlight. Safety. The parking lot. When she turned, she saw movement. A man stepping out from the tree line, tall, lean, wearing a dark hoodie and jeans. A camera hanging around his neck. She screamed and sprinted to her car. As she sped off, she saw him in the rearview mirror, standing in the middle of the trail, smiling. Her phone buzzed seconds later. Nice pace today. The visit 2 days later, Lydia's doorbell rang at 9 p.m. Through the peephole, she saw a uniformed delivery driver holding a package. She hadn't ordered anything, but the label said her name, correct address. She opened the door just a crack. "Can I help you?" The man smiled too wide. "Package for you, ma'am." Something about his eyes made her skin crawl. They didn't match the friendly tone. She said, "Leave it on the porch," and closed the door. When she checked again, minutes later, the package was there. But so was something else, a folded piece of paper tucked under the box. "You don't answer texts anymore." Her heart stopped. She called 911 immediately. The responding deputy checked the package. Inside were dozens of Polaroids, all of Lydia, her jogging, her unlocking her door, her sleeping, every photo taken from different angles. Different nights. Police set up surveillance around her building, but days went by without a sign, until the camera outside her window caught something. At 3:42 a.m., a figure climbed the fire escape, crouched by her window for 30 minutes, then disappeared into the trees. The grainy footage showed just one detail clearly, the same dark hoodie. The trapped Lydia knew she couldn't keep living like this. With the help of Heather and Detective Mendez, she devised a plan. They'd set up a decoy, a motion-activated alarm in her apartment, and Lydia would stay at Heather's for the weekend while police monitored her building. Night 1 passed quietly. Night 2, till 6 a.m. Alarm triggered. Officers arrived within 5 minutes. The back door was open, the frame splintered. Someone had broken in. Inside, they found muddy footprints leading straight to her bedroom closet. And inside, a small stool and an empty space in the drywall. He'd been hiding there. For how long, they didn't know. On the floor, they found a key ring with her spare house key attached, the one she thought she'd lost weeks earlier. Detective Mendez's face turned grim. "He's been coming and going, watching you sleep." Outside, tire tracks led away from the lot, a large pickups pattern, but on the edge of the trail behind her complex, they found something else. A half-buried duffel bag containing women's shoes, phones, and photos of multiple women jogging, not just Lydia. The capture. The manhunt lasted 3 days. They finally found him 20 miles out, near Pisgah National Forest, camping off-grid. His name was Eli Warner, 38, a transient drifter with a record of stalking and burglary. He'd worked briefly as a park maintenance worker years ago and knew the trails like the back of his hand. Inside his tent, police found dozens of memory cards filled with footage of women running. He'd been following them for years. When arrested, Eli smiled and told officers, "I just like watching people live their lives." In his backpack, he carried something that made Lydia's blood run cold, a Polaroid of her sleeping, and time-stamped the night before they caught him. She had been staying at Heather's. How had he found her? Eli refused to explain. But one line from his interrogation transcript stuck with her. "I didn't need to find her. She always goes back. The woods never forget." Months passed. Lydia moved to Charlotte, started therapy, and joined a new gym. No trails. No running outside. Still, some nights she swore she could hear footsteps behind her when walking to her car. The therapist said it was PTSD, but one afternoon a package arrived at her office. No return address inside. A single Polaroid. The picture showed a forest trail. Empty. On the back, written in neat handwriting. I still know your pace. She called the police immediately. They confirmed Eli Warner was still behind bars, but someone had dropped that envelope off by hand. Security footage showed a tall figure wearing a black hoodie walk up to the front desk, leave the package and disappear. Lydia stopped running altogether. To this day, whenever she drives past the Blue Ridge Woods, she swears she sees a man standing between the trees, watching her car pass, holding a camera. The apartment across the hall. The move in it was late September when Emma Walker, 27, moved into her new apartment on the north side of Chicago. She had just started a graphic design job and wanted a quiet space close to downtown. The building was old, cracked bricks, narrow hallways, and that faint smell of dust and radiator heat. The kind of place that seemed peaceful at first. The landlord, an older man named Mr. Hensley, handed her the keys and said with a half smile, "Welcome to floor 3. You've got good neighbors." But Emma noticed something strange as she walked down the hall. The door across from hers, apartment 3B, had no name tag, just scratches around the peephole. That first night, she was unpacking when she felt eyes on her. She glanced through her window. The curtains in 3B twitched slightly, as if someone had been watching. At first, she brushed it off. New buildings always made her uneasy. She played some music, tried to ignore it. But when she left her apartment the next morning, a Polaroid photo was sitting on the floor outside her door. It was a picture of her asleep in bed. Her stomach dropped. How could anyone have taken that? She hadn't told a soul she'd moved in. That night she taped her locks, covered her peephole, and kept the lights on. Somewhere across the hall, she swore she heard a low whisper through the vents. "Welcome home, Emma." The strange neighbor over, the next week Emma began noticing small things. Her doormat moved a few inches each morning. Her mail looked opened and resealed. The faint smell of cigarette smoke leaked under her door, even though smoking was banned in the building. One night she ran into a man in the hallway. He was tall, mid-40s, with thinning hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He carried a grocery bag and gave her a small nod. "New tenant?" he asked. "Yeah, just moved in." "Welcome. I'm Michael." "Apartment 3B." Her stomach twisted. "The door with the scratches." "Oh," she replied carefully. "Nice to meet you." Michael smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked past her into her apartment before saying, "It's good to have some life in this hallway again." After that, she started seeing him everywhere, leaving when she left, arriving when she came back. Once, she caught him standing outside her door at 2 a.m., pretending to check his phone. When she gasped, he just said, "Oh, couldn't sleep either." A few days later, her front door handle turned slowly at night. Then again and again. She could see the metal jiggle. Her breath froze. She grabbed a knife and whispered, "Go away." Footsteps retreated, slow, deliberate. The next morning, she found another Polaroid. This one wasn't taken from her window. It was taken inside her living room. The police visit, Emma finally called the Chicago police. 2 officers arrived, a younger patrolman and a skeptical sergeant. They searched her apartment, found nothing. The locks were intact, windows sealed, no sign of forced entry. "Ma'am," the sergeant said, "could be someone pranking you. Happens a lot in these old buildings. Try to stay calm." She wanted to believe that. She really did. But when they knocked on apartment 3B, no one answered. The sergeant noted the smell of stale smoke, the hum of a TV inside. They left a warning notice on his door. That night, Emma didn't sleep. Every creak sounded amplified, the radiator ticking, pipes groaning. Around 3 a.m. she heard it again, the faint shuffle of feet in her kitchen. Her heart pounded. Knife in hand, she crept out and found her refrigerator door open. A Polaroid photo sat inside on the top shelf. It showed her from behind, standing exactly where she was now. She screamed, ran out into the hallway, banged on a neighbor's door. A middle-aged woman answered, terrified. Emma stammered, "There's someone in my apartment." They called 911 again. By the time the police arrived, apartment 3B's door was wide open. Inside, the apartment was empty. No furniture, no clothes, no photos. Only cigarette butts, old Polaroids of different women, and a small camera lens wedged into the vent facing Emma's unit. The hidden tunnel. The police sealed off both apartments for investigation. Emma stayed at a friend's for a few nights, still shaken. But something kept gnawing at her. How had he gotten inside without breaking anything? When the maintenance team returned to check the vents, they made a horrifying discovery. Behind Emma's kitchen wall there was a narrow, hidden passage, an old utility crawl space connecting her apartment to 3B. Dusty footprints led in and out. He must have been slipping through at night, the maintenance worker whispered. Emma felt sick. Every time she'd slept, he could have been just a few feet away, now watching, breathing, waiting. When detectives processed the crawl space, they found an old mattress, cigarette ashes, and a pile of Polaroids. One showed Emma brushing her teeth, another cooking dinner, one asleep, mouth slightly open. The case made local news. Tenant stalked through wall in Chicago apartment. But the man, Michael, was gone. No ID, no records, no credit trail. It was as if he'd never existed. The return weeks passed. Emma moved out, relocated to a new apartment in Lincoln Park. She got therapy, changed her number, tried to move on. One morning, while heading to work, she stopped at a red light and glanced at the car next to her. A man in a grey hoodie sat behind the wheel, staring. His head tilted by slightly as like Michael used to. Her pulse raced. She turned right and sped away, heart hammering. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe she was just traumatized. That night she came home to find a single Polaroid slipped under her door. The image was grainy but clear enough. Her sitting in traffic that same morning, looking at him. Across the back of the photo, written in blue ink, "Missed you." The haunting aftermath. Emma hasn't been seen publicly since early 2023. Her apartment was found unlocked, belongings untouched. On her kitchen counter, police discovered a pile of Polaroids, some of her, others of different women. The final photo was darker, blurry, showing what looked like a man's shadow behind her couch. Neighbors claimed they heard a knock on Emma's door the night before, 3 soft taps, followed by silence. When investigators revisited her old building, they found the crawl space sealed with plywood and police tape. But one of the younger officers swore he heard faint breathing from inside the wall. He leaned close, flashlight trembling, and thought he saw an eye staring back through the crack. To this day, tenants in that Chicago building claim they hear whispering through the vents at night, a quiet male voice saying, "Welcome home." The gas station Stalker. The road trip begins. It was supposed to be a peaceful solo road trip. Jessica Morgan, 25, was driving from Phoenix to Flagstaff for a quiet weekend getaway after a brutal work month. She loved long drives, the open desert, the low hum of her engine, the way the stars appeared endless once the city faded away. Around 8 p.m., the last traces of daylight disappeared. Jessica stopped at a small, near-empty gas station off Route 87. The place looked abandoned, just one flickering light and an old sign that read, "Sierra Stop." She filled her tank and went inside for snacks. The clerk, an older man with sunburned skin and hollow eyes, didn't greet her. He just muttered, "Be careful on this stretch." As she left, she noticed a black pickup truck parked behind the store. No license plate, engine idling faintly. The driver was invisible in the dark. She shrugged it off and pulled back onto the highway, humming along to the radio. 15 minutes later, headlights appeared behind her. Too close, too steady. The same black truck. Her heart skipped. She switched lanes. The truck followed. She sped up. So did he. When she finally glanced in the rearview mirror, the driver leaned forward into the light. He was grinning. The first encounter, Jessica tried to stay calm. Maybe he was just going the same direction. But the road stretched for miles with no turns, and every time she slowed, so did the truck. After 20 minutes, she spotted another gas station up ahead. Bright lights, a few cars. Relief washed over her as she pulled in. The black pickup followed but parked far back, its headlights off. Jessica hurried inside, forcing a smile at the cashier, a young guy scrolling on his phone. "Hey, there's a truck following me. Could you maybe call the police? He looked up, confused. You sure? She turned around to point, but the truck was gone. The empty lot behind her shimmered under the fluorescent lights. Her heart pounded as she looked out again. Maybe he'd left. Maybe she imagined it. The cashier shrugged. You're fine. Happens sometimes. Jessica bought water and chips, trying to steady her breathing. When she stepped back outside, the desert air was cold, silent. She got into her car, locked the doors, and started the engine. Her headlights swept across the lot and illuminated something on her windshield. A Polaroid photo. Her car, from behind, taken at the first gas station. The silent highway, Jessica's hands shook as she drove north again. The highway was empty now. No streetlights, no traffic, just black desert stretching endlessly on either side. She kept checking her mirrors, whispering to herself, "It's fine, it's fine." Then, in the distance, faint headlights appeared. Two small beams growing larger, brighter, faster. The same black pickup. Her pulse raced. She pushed the pedal down, the needle hitting 90 mph, but the truck stayed right behind, its high beams flooding her mirrors until she could barely see the road. Then, silence. The lights vanished. Jessica exhaled shakily. Maybe he turned off somewhere. She slowed down, squinting at the darkness, and nothing. Just the hum of her tires. But a few minutes later, she noticed something impossible. A reflection in her backseat window. A faint shape. She slammed the brakes, hard hammering. The highway was dead quiet. She grabbed her phone and aimed the screen's light behind her. Empty seats. But when she lowered the phone, she noticed something on the rearview mirror. A smear, like a fingerprint. From the inside, she pulled over, trembling, trying to think. Her phone had no signal. She reached for her pepper spray and heard faint footsteps crunching gravel outside her car. The stranger's knock, a soft knock on the driver's window, made Jessica freeze. "Hey, miss? You okay?" It was a man, tall flannel jacket, flashlight in hand. His car idled a few feet behind hers. Relief flooded her. Maybe someone had stopped to help. Yeah, she stammered. My phone died. I think someone's following me." The man's face softened. "That's awful. Want me to take a look?" She hesitated, then cracked the window slightly. That's when she noticed his eyes. They didn't look at her. They looked past her into the back seat. Jessica turned slowly, heart pounding. Nothing. When she turned back, the man was smiling. Too wide. "You sure you're alone in there?" he whispered. Her body went cold. She slammed the window shut and hit the gas, speeding away as his flashlight beam followed her into the dark. After 10 minutes, she pulled into a rest stop and locked the doors, trying not to cry. She looked in the mirror again and froze. On the fogged back window, someone had written 2 words with their finger. "Still here." The rest stopped. Jessica couldn't breathe. She scrambled out of the car, clutching her phone, finally catching a single bar of signal. She called 911. "Ma'am, stay where you are," the dispatcher said. "We're sending state patrol to your location." But as she waited, the lights in the rest stop flickered. The vending machines buzzed, and the air grew unnaturally still. She hid inside the bathroom, trying to calm herself. That's when she heard the door creak open. Footsteps, slow, measured. "Jessica." A man's voice. Calm, too calm. She pressed herself into the corner stall, hand over her mouth. The voice came closer. "You shouldn't have stopped." The stall door handle jiggled once, twice. Then stopped. Silence. Jessica counted to 30, heart hammering, before peeking out. The bathroom was empty, but as she turned toward the exit, she saw it. On the wall above the sink, another Polaroid, her standing in the stall taken seconds ago. The patrol car red and blue lights finally appeared through the window. 2 highway patrol officers entered, weapons drawn. Jessica burst out of the bathroom sobbing. They swept the area, no sign of anyone. "Whoever it was, they're gone," one officer said. "You're safe now." He offered to escort her to a motel up the road. Jessica followed, feeling a wave of relief as they drove. The officer's cruiser stayed a few feet ahead, steady and bright. When they reached the motel, he parked and motioned her to stay put. He got out, went inside to speak with the clerk. Jessica watched, exhausted, until she noticed something wrong. The patrol car in front of her didn't have a license plate. Her eyes widened. The officer she'd been following wasn't wearing a badge, just a black jacket and a fake police radio. She jumped from her car and ran toward the motel's lobby, screaming. The man turned, eyes burning, face twisting with rage. "Jessica!" he shouted. "You can't hide anymore." The final chase, Jessica sprinted through the parking lot, adrenaline surging. She darted behind the building, hearing his boots scrape the pavement. "Stop running!" he yelled. "I just want to talk." She dove behind a dumpster, heart hammering so loudly she could barely hear. He walked past slowly, his flashlight beam slicing through the dark. When he turned the corner, she bolted toward the highway. Headlights appeared, a real patrol car this time. She waved frantically. The fake officer turned and ran for his truck, tires screeching as he sped off into the desert. Real police swarmed the area minutes later. They found Jessica crying by the road, shaking uncontrollably. Inside the man's abandoned truck, investigators discovered dozens of Polaroids, all of women who'd reported being followed along that same stretch of highway. The faces were different, but the notes written on each photo were the same, still here. The aftermath: Jessica survived, but she was never the same. The real Arizona Highway Patrol later revealed that the man had been impersonating an officer for months, preying on lone female drivers. His real name, Caleb Hurst, 42, a former security guard who vanished years earlier after assault charges in Nevada. He was never caught. Jessica moved to Oregon, changed her name, stopped driving long distances. But one morning, 2 years later, she walked to her car and found a single Polaroid under the windshield wiper, her standing in her apartment window. Across the photo, in faint blue ink still here to this day, travelers on Route 87 report seeing an unmarked black pickup parked behind old gas stations at night. Engine idling, lights off, a man sitting perfectly still behind the wheel, waiting. The girl in the window. A new beginning. In the fall of 2016, Megan Sanders, 23, moved into her first apartment alone. It was a modest 2-story complex in Akron, Ohio, beige walls, cracked pavement, and a parking lot lit by buzzing sodium lamps. She'd just started her nursing job at Summa Health and was excited to live independently. Her second-floor unit overlooked a small wooded area, the kind of view she found peaceful after long night shifts. The first week was uneventful. Quiet neighbors, faint TV sounds through the walls, nothing unusual. But one night, around 1 a.m., Megan woke up to a faint tapping on her bedroom window. Not loud, just enough to pull her from sleep. She peeked through the blinds but saw nothing. Just the tree branches swaying in the cold wind. She tried to go back to sleep, but the sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. This time she looked longer. And for a split second she saw something. A pale face reflected in the glass watching her, her breath hitched. She yanked the curtains shut and stayed frozen under the covers until morning. When she finally looked again at dawn, the window was smeared with something oily. A single fingerprint, from outside. The note: Megan convinced herself it was just some random creep, maybe a drunk neighbor. She mentioned it to the property manager, but he brushed it off. "Probably kids playing pranks," he said. "Keep your blinds closed." That night she double-checked her locks and went to bed early. But when she woke up the next morning, something was wedged under her door. A folded piece of lined notebook paper. Her stomach dropped as she opened it. In shaky handwriting it read, "You look peaceful when you sleep." Megan's heart pounded. She ran to the leasing office, shaking, and handed the note to the manager. He frowned. "We'll check the cameras," he said. But the cameras were broken. "Been out for months," he admitted. That evening, Megan had a co-worker, Lily, stay the night for comfort. They watched movies, locked every door, and laughed nervously about their secret admirer. At 2 a.m., a noise from the hallway made them both jump. A light scratching sound. Lily, braver than Megan, opened the door. No one was there, but taped to the outside wall was another note, smaller this time. "Don't bring people over. It ruins everything." Watching eyes, Megan couldn't sleep for nights. She called the police, but they found no fingerprints, no leads. "It's probably someone in the building," the officer said. "Keep your doors locked. Call us if it escalates." Days passed quietly. She almost began to relax. Until one morning she noticed something strange. Her curtains were slightly open when she was sure she'd closed them. Then came the missing items. A hairbrush, a coffee mug, her phone charger, little things that vanished and reappeared in odd places. She told herself she was just tired from work, but deep down she knew someone had been inside. That evening, Megan stayed up late, sitting in the dark living room with the lights off, facing the window. The moonlight reflected faintly off the glass, and then movement. A figure standing among the trees just beyond the glow of the parking lot lights. Still. Watching. She froze, too terrified to move. The silhouette tilted its head slightly like it was studying her. Then it raised a hand and waved. Megan lunged for her phone, dialing 911, but by the time the police arrived, the man was gone. Only muddy footprints remained near the edge of the grass, leading toward her building. The hidden camera. 2 days later, Megan's brother Kyle came to visit. He was furious after hearing what had happened. "You're not staying here alone," he said, inspecting every lock, every window. While checking under her couch, he noticed something odd. A small hole drilled into the baseboard, barely visible. He used his flashlight. Inside was a tiny black lens, a hidden camera. Kyle immediately called the police, who came and took photos. The lens was linked to a small transmitter, meaning someone nearby was watching the feed live. Officers searched other apartments and discovered the source, an empty unit directly across the courtyard, its blinds closed tight. The tenant on record had moved out months ago. They broke the door down. Inside were folding chairs, fast food wrappers, and dozens of printed photos of Megan, sleeping, cooking, brushing her hair. Every angle matched the layout of her apartment, and in the corner of the room facing the window sat an old camcorder. Its red light was still blinking, recording. The footage showed her from the night before, sitting in the dark, staring out the window. Behind her, in the shadows, a man's reflection could be seen moving closer. The police took the tapes for evidence and promised extra patrols. Megan stayed with her brother that night, terrified to go back, but curiosity gnawed at her. Who had been watching her? How long? A week later, she returned to grab her remaining belongings. The building was quiet, empty. The manager had changed the locks and boarded up the vacant unit across the courtyard. As she packed boxes, she found something under her couch cushion, a Polaroid. Her asleep in bed, on the back written in small, neat letters, "You shouldn't have looked at me." She dropped it and ran outside, sobbing. Across the lot, by the tree line, a man stood. Tall, lean, hooded, just watching. The police arrived minutes later, but the man had vanished again. No fingerprints, no tire marks. Nothing but damp shoe prints that stopped at the wood's edge. Later that night, Kyle showed her one of the photos the police recovered. It was of the man's face reflected in her window. She gasped. She recognized him. It was the property manager. The escaped Megan left Akron that night, driving to her parents' house in Columbus. The police issued a warrant, but the manager, Dean Lasker, had already disappeared. Investigators discovered his real identity, not Dean, but Mark Daniels, 39, previously charged for unlawful surveillance in Michigan. He'd been using fake documents to get jobs at apartment complexes, installing cameras in women's units. Megan couldn't sleep for weeks. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow felt alive. Then one night at her parents' house, her mom called from the kitchen, "Megan, did you just come in from outside?" Megan froze. "No." Her mother pointed to the back door, slightly ajar. On the counter was another Polaroid, taken through the window. Megan standing in the living room unpacking her boxes. The caption this time read, "You can move, but I'll find you." The confrontation, Megan refused to live in fear. She started carrying a firearm and took self-defense classes. Months passed with no sign of him, until one snowy January night when her car alarm went off at 3 a.m. She rushed outside. Her tires were slashed, the windshield cracked, and there he was, a Mark, standing under the streetlight, hands in his pockets, smiling faintly. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." He tilted his head. "I missed our nights together." Megan pulled the gun from her coat and aimed. "Get away from me." He stepped forward, laughing softly. "You won't shoot me, Megan. You like being watched." The shot echoed through the neighborhood. He fell instantly. The police confirmed the next morning. He'd been carrying a knife, duct tape, and a flash drive filled with hundreds of photos of Megan and other women. The haunting months later, Megan's life slowly returned to normal. She moved again, changed jobs, and tried therapy to heal, but sometimes she still felt it, that heavy, invisible presence in her apartment. One evening, as she prepared for bed, she saw a shadow move outside her window. Her heart spiked, but when she opened the blinds, nothing was there. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You missed me." She froze, her throat tightening. The number traced back to a prepaid burner. The police assured her Mark Daniels was confirmed dead. DNA, fingerprints, all matched. Still, she swore she could feel him, watching. Weeks later, she received a package with no return address. Inside, a Polaroid camera, and a single photograph of her current apartment building, taken from across the street. On the bottom edge, smudged in ink, "Still watching." To this day, no one knows who sent it. Some believe Mark had an accomplice. Others think it was a copycat. But Megan knows what she feels every night when the blinds flutter softly. She's not alone.